Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's time for another team season preview, and this time it is the Cincinnati Bengals. With me, I've got a returning guest who came on for last year's episode, who was on for a mock draft episode this season and last season. With me today is Touchdowns Rory-Jo Daniels. Rory, how are you? How's life?
Yeah, good, thank you. Looking forward to the season. It can't come quick enough now. We've had a long off season, so I'm ready for a bit of American football.
It's almost as well for you being a Bengals fan, a team that had so much hope and so much expectation going into the year. It's almost even more itching to get going, because say if you're a fan of a team that's expected to be one of the worst teams, like Keg, our Panthers fan, I think you might be sort of not that desperate for the season to begin. But do you think almost for you, with how last season went in terms of the injury to Joe Burrow and missing out the playoffs, with how the last 2 years gone before that, it almost feel like you're itching to go because you want to sort of make up for lost time because of how underwhelming last season was?
Yeah, obviously the injury to Burrow was devastating to the season, and I think the back end of the year just sort of felt like it wasn't going anywhere. Obviously we had a few games where Jake Browning stood in and did really well at quarterback, and we had some younger players that got game time and got the ability to sort of get some experience under the belt. But everything was sort of, it was all over when Burrow got the injury, and it was already, everybody was sort of looking to the off season and what we could do. So yeah, everybody now, we've put the plan into action, and everybody just wants to get going and keep Burrow healthy and get him to week one healthy and see how good this team can be.
Yeah, exactly. And we are skipping ahead slightly to one of the questions I planned later on, but does that almost the whole season all depend on Joe Burrow? Because he's had injury problems in his career, but it's 2 seasons where he's been fully healthy the whole year. You've made the Super Bowl, and you've also reached the AFC title game. I mean, this is the guy who every big game he's been involved in when healthy, he's gone out and delivered and more. So do you think that almost it is that case where now it is the case where if Burrow is healthy, we can go far. If he's not healthy, we're doing nothing. So does the whole season for you just hang in the balance of Joe Burrow's injury, and just that's basically the be-all and end-all of your season, how healthy he is and how he performs?
Yeah, I think it is really, and it is the case with most franchise quarterbacks. A lot of the teams, it's difficult to have a replacement ready to go. I mean, we saw last season where Browning came in, they changed the scheme slightly, made it slightly easier for him to have success, and it did work. And Browning did have some good games, and he did really well as a backup. Obviously, he's re-signed as the backup, but he can only go so far. I think there's a lot of talent around the quarterback, so in a pinch, you're looking at 2 to 3 games where he might be able to get you through. But yeah, it all hinges on Burrow, and obviously for him personally, Burrow now wants to prove that he can stay healthy, because it is becoming a little bit of a question mark. We've had off-season injuries. Obviously, we had the main injury when he first came into the league, and then we had appendicitis and the hand injury. So he needs to prove. I know people like Tua in Miami, he's had to prove that he can stay healthy. A little bit different, obviously, with the concussion thing, but I think it is a question mark that's hanging over Burrow, and he'll be keen to get a full season under his belt and prove himself as a franchise quarterback that can be available all the time.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely massive, and I think he's lucky that he's got a good team around him. You've got some good weapons there. You think of Jamar Chase. If he stays, T. Higgins, I know he's re-signed, and there's the whole thing about him. So I think, yeah, that is the big thing. And I think also you look at the run game, and that's really where I want to go to next, is the ins and outs. I mean, one of the main outs include Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd, two really who are good big parts of the Bengals offense in the last few years. Other players that left include DJ Reader, Jonah Williams, and Irv Smith. And in the ins include the likes of Mike Gesicki, Geno Stone, Zach Moss, Trent Brown, Von Bell, and Sheldon Rankings, to name a few, as well as the aforementioned re-signing of T. Higgins, as well as the likes of Drew Sample and Trayvon Williams. And in the draft itself, he took Avarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia, 18th overall. Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle out of Michigan, 49th overall. Jermaine Burton, wide receiver out of Alabama. and McKinley Jackson, defensive tackle out of Texas A&M. Both of those coming in the 4th round. Rory, your take overall on the off-season for your team?
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty good off-season. I think in comparison to last year, I think what happened last year is maybe they got a little bit self-confident and felt like they could move on from players and bring other players into the scheme that would just sort of simply fit in, and it would just carry on the same. Obviously, we saw it didn't work on the defensive side of the ball, where they brought in Nick Scott at safety to replace Von Bell, and then obviously they had Dax Hill that was coming. He was drafted previously, so he was in his 2nd year last year. He was meant to be the Jesse Bates replacement, and to be honest, the safety room was a complete mess. It didn't work. We saw Jordan Battle in the second half of the season where he flashed good potential, but the Dax Hill experiment didn't work. And I think they've learned from that, and they decided that no, we can't just take it as a given that the scheme or the star players in this team are gonna just be able to allow us to put pieces in that'll just come in and do a job straight away. And that was the same with Irv Smith on offense. You can't just bring somebody in and expect them to get the best out of them when they didn't have a proven track record. So I think somebody like Gesicki and Moss, they might not be the flashiest of signings, but at the same time, they have got a proven record of being successful and being effective. So I think that was the main thing. Obviously, addressing the trench play was a big one. So they lost Reader, which I think the issue for them was, should they pay that amount of money to Reader with the injury history? So they've replaced him through the draft, Chris Jenkins, and also Sheldon Rankins as well. So I think they've done a good job. And if you look, obviously, offensive line's been a problem for a long time. So bringing Trent Brown in, he should go in and be the immediate starter at right tackle. He's got injury history problems, so they haven't left it up to just Trent Brown. That's why they brought Amarius Mims in the draft. So yeah, I think they've covered all the bases, and obviously bought Von Bell back. Geno Stone is a big asset, so they look to solve that secondary issue that was bugging them. So I'm optimistic about it. I think they've attacked it in a way that made sense. And as usual for the Bengals, it's not super flashy. They never will be. But I think they've filled most of the main gaps.
You mentioned Mike Gesicki there, and it's well known to regular listeners to this podcast that I was a big Gesicki fan who's the Dolphins, and I do feel like he would offer you something. I don't think you should allow him to block. I don't think blocking is his strength, but I think as a catching tight end, he's really effective. I mean, certainly in the Flores days, not so much with Daniel. When he was with Flores, he came with some big plays and big moments. I'm thinking about, the winning touchdown against the Patriots that knocked them from the 2 seed to the 3rd seed back when the top 2 seeds got the bye. And the game against the Chiefs where he made, I think, 2 touchdown catches, and there was a big catch he made and touchdown catch he made early on against the Ravens, and that comeback we made the start of the 2022 season. So I think he can, especially with Boyd gone as like a 3rd option, and I think for you guys, Gesicki, I think would be a great tight end option. Purely if you want an extra guy for Burrow to throw to, then I think you've got the guy there in Gesicki, and I think that he struggled in New England, but I do feel you guys are going to get the best out of him again, because I think it's a system that suits him a lot better. But I think in New England he was almost one of many guys receiving the ball, but I think now he'll probably be Burrow's 4th, 5th, maybe even 3rd choice guy, obviously behind Chase and Higgins. So yeah, I think you guys got a good one there. And obviously, we talked about it before privately in DMing about the drafting of Mims. But in terms of the rest of the draft, as well as Mims, your take for the audience about your overall thoughts on the draft for the Bengals.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting draft class because there's a lot of potential there, but there's also a lot of risk. And Mims, I think, his potential is sky high. Obviously, he hasn't had a lot of snaps at the college level. What he has had, it was very promising, but he's also had injuries, soft tissue injuries along the way. So that is something to watch out for. And then obviously, Chris Jenkins, I'm really high on the 2nd round draft pick. I think he'll come in and make an immediate impact. They do need some beef in the middle of the the defensive line. He's not a nose tackle. I think he's better as a 3-tech. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out with rankings, because neither of them really want to play too much nose tackle. They both enjoy rushing the passer. So that'll be something that they'll have to work out, maybe a bit of a scheme shift, perhaps. But Jermaine Burton in the 3rd round, he's a perfect example probably of the whole draft class, in that there was a lot of character concerns, but what you see on tape is really exciting. You expect him to get a good opportunity, because obviously, like you say, Tyler Boyd's moved on. So there is an opportunity for the 3rd receiver. Like you said, I think Gesicki, his experience will mean that he'll be the 3rd receiving option to start the season. But I think in the long run, they hope that Burton can do that later in the season. And then obviously maybe he could be the replacement for Higgins if he can reach what you see on tape at Alabama, if he can reach that potential. But obviously the character thing is a big one. And then the rest of the class, there was quite a lot of sort of gambles, really. Eric Hall, the tight end, big injury history. I think Tanner McLaughlin, another tight end who had injury problems. So they've all got high ceilings. It's just whether they'll hit or not. But the first 4 picks, I think, will have a big impact. And I'm particularly excited to see what Burton can do with Joe Burrow.
Absolutely. I think that will be, I'm assuming, the most exciting part of the season, to see how it looks, all the new stuff with Joe Burrow. And I think how he comes back from injury has to be a contender. One of the bookies' favourites for comeback player of the year. I think Rodgers is up there as well. And I do feel like, he will be one of the guys, if healthy, that will be surely up for that award. Now, we are both football fans. Unlike myself, you are English, so you'd be fully aware of Southgate's work with England. And one thing that you could say about him, and probably Sven back in the day, was they're good, but are they great? And I feel like the same thing can be asked about Zac Taylor at the Bengals. Now, on paper, great track record. I mean, he's made 2 AFC title games, won 1, made a Super Bowl in the process. But his record is still 37-44-1. And whilst, he's got these players around him, that definitely helps. I don't know about you. You may have a more of a respectful opinion of myself about the Bengals because you watch them week in, week out. But for me, it just seems from an outsider like he's doing well, but is he the guy who's going to take you to the next step and take you that one step further and make it to Super Bowl again and this time win it?
Yeah, I think the big thing with somebody like Taylor is he's not a Shanahan or a McDaniel in terms of scheme. I don't think he's doing anything that's sort of going to change how the league operates. And to be honest, when he first came in, I did have my reservations after the first couple of seasons. I was quite vocal in the fact that I some of the stuff that he did early on, where there was veterans, where there was uneasiness, and these sort of people that were sidelined that had been with the team for a long time. But ultimately, it's worked. It's worked for him. He's installed his system, how he views a franchise should work, and it has, and he's rebuilt it from the ground up. And it did need it in Cincinnati. A lot of the stuff that was going on was too old-fashioned, and I think the big thing is man management. And like you say with Southgate, the results did come for England, and it wasn't always pretty, but when you listen to the interviews with Southgate and all the players and the way the players speak about him is very similar to the Bengals. If you talk to the Bengals players, it is Taylor. They love him, and he has been able to band them together to produce. And obviously, there's going to be a new OC this year. Brian Callahan moves on to the Titans. So our quarterback coach, Dan Pitcher, is going to come in. So I think we will see some difference in scheme. I think Pitcher will be wanting to put his stamp on it. But ultimately, Zac Taylor's a play caller. So he has control of it. I think the main thing is the people that he surrounds himself with. He's got Lou Anarumo at defensive coordinator, who's a fantastic coordinator. So it's not almost like he's not the best footballing mind out there. I don't think anybody can argue that. But he will get the right people around him, get the right atmosphere. And he's changed a lot of the stuff behind the scenes as well, in terms of he's given a zest for interaction with the fans. He's keen to, he goes to Cincinnati bars after they've had games and hands out game balls and all this sort of stuff. That there was a lack of cohesion between the club and the fans, and he's got rid of that. So you can only say that's a good thing. And obviously he'll be judged on whether he can bring a Super Bowl to Cincy with Burrow at the helm. That's the expectation. But I think it's difficult not to be pleased with the job he's done.
Absolutely, and I think you look at you can look at the fact he's got all these good players around him, and you look at the fact that there's questions about his coaching, but at the same time, he's still got on there for a reason. I mean, you think about Marvin Lewis, for example, having Ocho Cinco and Carlson Palmer, they didn't win a playoff game in that time. So I think that the fact he's actually got them to win a game and more. I mean, they've won multiple playoff games in the last few years. So I feel like, whilst I don't think that he is, a great coach, I think from what you're saying, he's absolutely right. I mean, I remember seeing him when he made the Super Bowl at the Cincinnati bar, and I think that it just pleased the fans. I mean, it goes a long way to getting the fans behind you if you're doing stuff like that, especially if you're from the area as well. And if you've actually been in that bar when he turns up, you always have that memory in your head of him doing that for you. So I think, he's almost, I think he's maybe, I don't know whether it's too self-awareness that he's realised, I'm not Shanahan, I'm not McVay, but I can get the guys behind through man management, and he's maybe honed in on his skills and he knows what he's good at, and he's sort of trying to just please everyone and do right by the city and by himself. So I think ultimately, if you're not going to win a Super Bowl, it's probably down to either Burrow's health or his coaching, maybe in a big game, not big up to scratch. But I think, again, you can't argue with the stats and numbers of his time so far at the Bengals.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing. Since Burrow came in, obviously his record is a bit wonky because of the first couple of seasons he had at the helm. But since Burrow's been there, he has changed things around. And I think it's the case of, you see it with like at the Ravens with like a John Harbaugh, a special teams coach that's gone up to management, and then it's not a scheme thing as such. It's just that he just knows how to do the things that make you a good head coach. The player interactions there, getting the right people, getting the right coordinators in place to make it work. So I think there's two types. I think some teams obviously want the hotshot offensive coordinators that are going to come in, get close to the quarterback and do that sort of thing. And I think Taylor is very close with Burrow. But he isn't that sort of groundbreaking mind that those guys are. But I do think there is scope in the NFL for a team builder, a man manager, and I think Taylor falls into that category.
I think you're right. Before we head on to the final part of the show, we actually forgot this part with Javan in our Seahawks episode. But for you, Rory, who is the most likely Bengal to win MVP in 2024?
To win MVP, it's got to be Joe Burrow, hasn't it? He is going to be the key deciding factor. If he comes back healthy, I fully expect him to be on top form when he comes back. And I think he's reaching that point in his career where he's seen a lot, he's took a lot of lumps. He's got used to the NFL schemes. He knows what people are going to throw at him. And I think his mental ability is his strength, and he'll be able to process all that. And I think we will, as long as he's healthy, we'll see a Joe Burrow that people will start saying, he's up there with Mahomes and Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think those four could probably set themselves apart. I think that's what Burrow needs to do this year. He's really cement himself in that group.
Yeah, I mean, we had our quarterback ranking episode we do every year with Sam Moores. I had Burrow still second, despite the injuries. I just think that when everyone's healthy, in a one-off game, who do I want as my quarterback in a big moment? 2-minute warning comes about. Apart from Mahomes, the next one is Burrow for me. I think he's proven it. Every big game he's played in, he's done well in most of them. I think even the Rams loss, he did well. So for me, I think Burrow is, when he's healthy, is absolutely sensational. I just think, the health is a worry. But I do think that that four of Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Jackson probably are that sort of set four above them. I think it's Mahomes, and then it's those three, then it's the rest for me. But I think CJ Stroud is coming close to it, and I think Love could approach close this year. But I think, those four, I think, are the clear best four in the NFL for me. And I don't think it's even any question. So we are going to head on to our win-loss tie section, which, if you aren't familiar by now, each family comes on, predicts their team's record by going through each game and answering with a win-loss tie. Now, Rory, of course, you were on last year. You did finish 9-8 in 2023. Do you remember by chance what your prediction was a year ago for your Bengals?
Pretty healthy. I think it was. I would have thought it would be something like 12 wins, 13 wins, something like that.
Yeah, 13-4. So, not quite the same amount of wins as you thought, but we've got a bit of an asterisk there because the season basically went when Joe Burrow went down. So, it's it's not a surprise because I think most people had Bengals at least reaching the AFC title game. I don't think many had that injury happening and that sort of season happening. But hopefully this year you're hoping for a more accurate result, because I think 2 years ago you were pretty much bang on. I think the fact that the game got cancelled against the Bills just threw the whole record thing off. So you were pretty much bang on the money 2 years ago. So you're hoping for that once again. In week one, you have the honour of being the first team to play the Patriots post Bill Belichick, as you take on the Patriots at home in week one.
Yeah, I think that I'll put that one down as a win, simply because Patriots bedding everything in new. I think it'll be Jacoby Brissett that starts. I don't think they'll throw Drake May straight into the fire. I think at home we should be better prepared. I think they'll be sort of getting used to things, getting used to a revamp. So I'll put that one as a win.
Yeah, I agree. Probably one of the easy ones to predict out of all 17 games. Now, from one end to the other, you take on the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Of course, this has been a recent rivalry. I think one of my favourite rivalries in the NFL now, because there seems to be an actual hatred between the teams. You think about, I believe it was Chase making a comment last year, and the whole Burrowhead thing and everything else that happened. I think there's genuine hatred. And I think that, if it comes to that again in the playoffs and you play them in the wildcard round divisional championship game, I think it's going to even more intensify it. So I think what a time to have it, week 2, probably a bit early on in the season to have it. I'd rather be on like a week 16 or week 15, but either way, it's going to be electric. But how are you feeling about that one?
Yeah, I think they've definitely put this one at the start of the schedule after worrying about both guys being fit. They want to build this one as a Burrow versus Mahomes. So the earlier you get it in, it should be, fingers crossed, that both of them are still healthy in week 2. They're always tight games. There's never much in it, and I just think I want to give us the win because I think they're going through a little bit of transition. Obviously, you want to see what their receivers are like early on in the year, but because it's in Arrowhead, I'm gonna give the Chiefs a win. We'll take the hit there. I think it'll be a close one. 3 or 4 points in it. So reluctantly, I'm gonna give us our first loss there.
I don't blame you, especially at their place as well. Now I'll be cheering on the Bengals in that game, mainly because I always never like seeing a team win it again and again. So I'll always be cheering on a team that's never won it before. But I'm hoping I'll see some Reece Sammet. I hope he can get on the field. I hope he can have a say. I don't think he will. I think at best he'll be a returner. But I'm hoping that that will come, and I'm hoping that'll be a game I watch where Reece Sammet gets his first taste of NFL action. Hopefully he can shock the world. So that's my hope out of that game. A Bengals win, but a Reece Sammet touchdown somewhere involved in the game. So week 3 is going to be back at home, but this time you're against the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, so similar to the Patriots, the reasoning behind this one, obviously, us at home against a team that's rebuilding, new quarterback. He's got it all to sort of learn. It's thrown into the fire, and I expect him Jaden Daniels to start week 1. I think it'll be a tough task for them to come into a place like Cincy and take away anything from it. So I think that'll be a win for us again.
Okay, and then week 4 is against the Carolina Panthers on the road. Win, loss, or tie?
Yeah, win again. I think this is the strong part of the season for the Bengals. This is where they really need to make hay and get wins against teams like Panthers, Commanders, and Patriots. So yeah, I put that as a win. That'd leave us at 3-1, and an outside chance, obviously, if we can cause a shock in Arrowhead, that we could be unbeaten going into week 5.
That would be amazing. I mean, you've got a pretty brutal next 5 games. There's 4 out of the 5 games are extremely tough. The first one starts in week 5 at home to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, so similar to the Chiefs, it's these are going to be close, and obviously they should be fantastic games. I'm going to give us the win, and that's home advantage. Again, I think in the tight ones, that's the kind of thing where it comes down to who's at home. And I just think, obviously, they've got Mike Macdonald as the new head coach. Maybe there's a little bit of bedding in to be done on that side of things. They've lost Mike Macdonald. They've lost Mike Macdonald, the defensive coordinator. So I think that'll play some part. Maybe they're just a little bit suspect on defense to start the year while they bed in the new defensive coordinator. But fingers crossed. So I'll give it a close one to the Bengals.
Do you know what? I think this AFC North is the toughest division in the whole NFL right now. I think all 4 teams. It's the only one I can think of out the 8 that has this thing where I think all 4 teams could actually win it. I actually a genuine case. I think the Bengals. You've got Burrow. You've got Chase. You've got a great team there. The Steelers won 10 games, made the playoffs with Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. They can do the same, surely, with Russell Wilson. The Ravens were the 1 seed last year. They got the reigning MVP. And the Browns, quarterback's a question, but they've got an amazing defense. They've got Nick Chubb, Mari Cooper. So I think these games, like division games against all 4 teams, are going to be extremely tough, in my opinion. Especially the road games, they're going to be extremely tough. And I think both North divisions are ones I'm really intrigued as an outsider looking in. Really intrigued how they look, because I think both divisions are extremely exciting right now. Week 6, the stars of Hard Knocks, New York Giants on the road.
Yeah, Giants. I think another good one for us. I think we'll get the win there. I'm not convinced about Daniel Jones at quarterback for the Giants. I think they're still in a rebuilding process. Obviously, it's been fun to watch their off-season Hard Knocks and see how they're going about it. But I think they've got a long way to get that roster back to challenging for the playoff berth. So yeah, we'd hope to go in there and get a win there.
So week 7 is another road game, another AFC North battle. You travel to Ohio to take on the so you already are in Ohio. You travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns.
Yep, I'm going to give us a win there. I'm not convinced about Deshaun Watson. That's the biggest factor for me on this one. I agree, defensively they're very strong. I just can't get behind Watson. We just haven't seen the level of play that the level of player he was at the Texans hasn't come to the fore for the Browns. And I just don't think it will. I think he's had time now, obviously back healthy. But yeah, for me, I think we should be wanting to beat the Browns.
Certainly, I think there may come a point, I think this year or next year, where if it carries on the way it is, I think the Browns may look at potentially just thinking, you know what, we may have to just take that massive cap hit and just cut our losses, because everything he's bringing off the field and all the sort of the controversy that surrounds him, performing badly on the field, just combine those two together, it's they may think at one point, you know what, we'll take the hit and just have someone else in, because it's not been anywhere near what they thought they were giving up all those draft picks for, all that guaranteed money in the contract. And obviously, I'm not excited that it was doing. I don't want to, I don't want him doing well. I don't think anyone wants him doing well. I'm enjoying the downfall, but at the same time, the Browns fans must just be in between a rock and a hard place right now. I don't know what they're thinking. Week 8 is against the Eagles, but this one's at home.
Yeah, I'm going to give us the loss there. I'm going to try and, don't want to be too biased. So I'm going to throw a few losses in there. But yeah, Eagles, Saquon Barkley, obviously going there from the Giants. That'll make their run game sort of a little bit more dynamic and effective, hopefully, for them. I think that is something that the Bengals have historically struggled with. I know myself, the frustration you can get when you can't seem to stop a team from running, and it does occur regularly for the Bengals at times, which is also another reason why I'm not looking forward to facing Derrick Henry at the Ravens. So yeah, I think their running game with Jalen Hurts and Barkley might be too strong for us. I actually think they'll have a pretty good season.
There's nothing worse than you're down in a game, it's the fourth quarter, and just can't stop the run, and the team is just running down your gut all the time, running down the clock as well. It's one of the hardest things to, as a fan, to watch. Is any team, because I think if you're losing a game and the team drops the pass, then it's like fine because the clock stops. But the fact that they just keep running the ball with success and they keep running the clock down, it's by far one of the more frustrating parts of the fan when you have to experience that. That's not. I remember Josh Allen many times against us over the years has done that, and it's not a nice experience. Week 9, you're back at home. Well, so you remain at home against the Raiders.
Yeah, I think home win there, strong home win. I just think that the Raiders are similar to a lot of the teams we spoke about. It's a bit of a rebuild. O'Connell likely to be the quarterback there. Not sure how far he can take it. I'm not sure how far the Raiders potentially want him to take it. It's one of those where it's nice to win games, but at the same time, when you're in a rebuild like that, sometimes it's nice to get the bad season out of the way and get the reset with the early draft pick for a quarterback. So perhaps he can shock the world, but I don't think he'll come in and into Cincinnati and get a win. So yeah, I'll go strongly for us on that one.
Yeah, I can't see Adams being there. I think there's a chance he could get traded. I've seen a lot of chatter about an Ayuk Adams trade, which I think is something that suits all parties involved. But I think even whether it's O'Connell, whether it's Minshew, I think either way, they're not going to be winning more than 7 games. I think them and the Saints just scream to me 7-win seasons. They really do. I don't think any of them are going to be bad enough to get the first overall pick, but I don't think any of them are going to be good enough to make a playoff push or anything like that. So yeah, I agree with that completely. We mentioned before, Derrick Henry, you're traveling to M&T Bank against Henry, against Jackson, against the Ravens.
Yeah, so I'll split it. This tends to be what I've done historically with the Ravens. I give them the win at home. I just think they're very strong. I think that's where the main competition in the AFC North is going to come from. Obviously, it's so frustrating to watch Lamar Jackson be so good because I loved him at Louisville when he was coming out as a college player. So to see him to go to your rival is a tough one, especially how dynamic he's been and obviously how his passing game's improved so much as well over the last couple of seasons. So I think, he could be have another run at the MVP this year. So I want to be fair and I'll give them the win at their place and us the win at our place and split it.
I think when I think of Lamar Jackson, highlight plays, the first one that always comes to my head is that one in 2019 against you guys with the spin move. That one always just lives in my head. That was just one of the most amazing plays I've seen from a quarterback.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? And that like we were saying, the frustrating thing when you defensively you can't get a stop, especially playing when you've got a strong running game, a strong mobile quarterback, and then somebody that's as accurate has turned into somebody that's as accurate as Jackson in the passing game as well. It really is frustrating because sometimes you just think, where are we going to turn? To get something out of this on defense. So yeah, he's probably the most frustrating opposition player that we face twice a year.
I can imagine. I mean, there's a lot to choose from, but I think he probably is. I imagine you could probably him or Nick Chubb. I think probably maybe Derrick Henry now. Now he's coming into the fray in that division. And I think with Lamar Jackson as well, I think one thing we saw last year was taking in the regular season alone, every big game he played, every big team he played, he performed and was the reason why he won games. Remember I went to the Lions-Ravens games, and he was just so methodical, and it was just an absolute clinic from him. And look at the 49ers game and all the other big games he played against any big team that were contenders, against ourselves, the Dolphins, just absolutely just tore his team apart. And really, I think he should have really they should have been in that game in Vegas. They should have been the ones playing the Niners. They really should have missed opportunity there. I do feel like with Henry there, it may be the final jigsaw piece in the jigsaw. I think that could be the one that takes him over the edge. But we will, I'm sure we'll soon find out soon enough. So going from one Harbaugh head coach to another Harbaugh head coach, as Jim Harbaugh, you go to the Chargers at SoFi, win, loss or tie.
Yeah, I'm going to give us the win there. I do like, I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert, and I think Harbaugh will get it turned around at the Chargers. But I perhaps don't see that they've got the weapons as it stands for Herbert. I think they're a bit short at receiver. Obviously, they lost Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, so there's a bit of rebuilding to do at that position. So whether or not Herbert's going to be quite as effective this season as he has been previously. But I think they'll get there, and obviously they're going to want to establish the run. They're going to be good in the trenches. That's the sort of staples of Harbaugh football. But yeah, I think this year might be a season too early for them. So I think we want to go in there and get a win.
I agree. I can see him potentially still finishing third or second in that division, but I think they'll be nowhere near challenging for playoff position. I think you're looking at probably a 6-win season. That's probably what I'd go for. Maybe 7 wins. But I think they got the right guy, a head coach. I think they've got a brilliant quarterback who's been dealt a bad hand in terms of head coaches, and he's finally got himself a good head coach. But I do feel like, this year maybe is a bit too early in the thing. But we were saying that with D'Amico Ryans and Stroud, and look what happened. So you never know. It may turn out to be one of the seasons, but I'm not too confident in this year anyway for the Chargers. So after the Chargers, you have a Week 12 bye before a home game in Week 13 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah,
I'm going to go with a win against the Steelers. I'm not as bullish on Russell Wilson, Justin Fields combo, whichever one you think is going to be starting by that time in the year. I think Wilson will be better than the Denver version of what he was. I think the butting of heads last year didn't help anybody. But I don't think he'll recapture what made him really good at Seattle. I think that's in the rearview mirror. So I think I know people are quite excited about what the Steelers have now. They've moved on from Pickett, but I still don't think the quarterback situation's solved enough for them to challenge us.
I mean, they're in a tough division to try and compete. I mean, they could genuinely have 9 wins and finish 4th in the AFC North. I think it could be as good as that. I think that's how good I rate this division. Now, moving on to Week 14, you're on the road to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm going to give the Cowboys the win there just because on the road again. And I think Dak Prescott's brilliant. I think he's somewhat underrated by a lot of people. And obviously Cowboys in the regular season are a lot different to Cowboys in the postseason. So I think they're trickier to beat when they're rolling in the regular season. So yeah, I think that'll be a difficult away venture. So yeah, I'll give us a loss.
Now, I was going to laugh at that, but I think the Dolphins are the exact same. So I can't really. I genuinely think that the Dolphins and Cowboys are the exact same teams. They're the Dolphins are the AFC version of the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are the NFC version of the Dolphins. I just feel like both teams are amazing at home when the weather suits them, regular season, early on. But you try and rely on both teams to win a playoff game. I'm not going to bet on it at all. So, good luck with that one. As in Cowboys fans, it's not been an easy few years when it comes to those kind of games. Week 15 is your penultimate home away game of the season as you travel to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I'll give us a win, but I think it will be a tricky one. That trickier than it looks on paper. Obviously, the links with Brian Callahan going from the Bengals to the Titans as the head coach. These two guys are going to know each other inside out. They're going to know, how they think is exactly the same. That's how they've molded it in the Cincy, is that, Callahan puts together a game plan with Taylor, and then obviously Taylor's the play caller, but they're sort of seen as one and the same thing. Their ideas, sort of a mind meld. So they're going to know what each other's going to want to call on third and short and third and long, and it'll be an interesting chess match. But I think we're stronger in terms of personnel. I think we've got the better players. So whether or not Callahan can come up with something that's going to stump us, I don't know. Whether he's got the players to follow it through. So yeah, I'll give us a win there.
Okay, and in week 16, your penultimate home game of the season, you take on the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I'll do the double over the Browns there. Same again. Just don't see Watson being able to get the better of us.
Fair enough. Your final home game of the season, you take on the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, win again there. I'm not buying into the Bo Nix project. Certainly not in year one anyway. Obviously, we've seen him develop in college to be an effective passer for Oregon, but I wouldn't have taken him in the first round personally. That was too rich for me. And I don't think he'll just come straight into the NFL and light it up. I think Peyton will be good for him. It will be good for a young quarterback that he can mould, but I don't think they'll break any pots in year one.
Yeah, I agree. I said before in the previous episode, I do feel like they may be one of the worst teams in the entire AFC. I think they're not going to get many wins, I don't think, in 2024. Finally, in week 18, it is a road game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I'll give us the win just because business end of the season, it's where it really matters. And obviously we'll be looking at trying to get home buys and stuff like that. So I think it will be. And like you say, the AFC North could be absolutely, jam-packed there. Everybody could be fighting for a playoff berth. So yeah, it'll be a tricky one, but I think we'll be locked in and looking at getting ready for playoff football by that time in the season.
Fantastic, and that is where we will end this. Actually, before we do that, 13-4, you would assume from that, unless there's a crazy season ahead, that will get you in the playoffs. How far do you think the Bengals go when you make it into the playoffs?
I think they could go all the way this year. I'm quite bullish because I think they need to make it count. Well, they've got T. Higgins on the franchise tag, so I think this is the best. Offensively, they'll look with Higgins, Chase, Gesicki and Burrow. I think that's quite exciting, and I think that could be enough to take us at least to the Super Bowl if hopefully we don't go and become runners up again. But yeah, I'm quite bullish.
I love that so much. The first person who said it so far in our season previews this year that you're going to win the Super Bowl. So I'm loving the optimism, and I kind of hope you do it in a way. As long as it's not the Chiefs, then that's all I care about. All the Patriots, Jets, and Bills. But yeah, that is where we'll end the podcast for today. So yeah, once again, huge thank you to Rory-Jo for coming on today.
No, thanks for having me. I always enjoy it. It's good to have a look ahead to the season, and so it's something I always look forward to.
Well, if you haven't already, give Rory a follow on socials. When you do release the episode on socials, you will find Rory's social media handle on there. If you want to give him a follow for all his work on the touchdown and all NFL chat. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast with myself, Annie Davis, and our Bengals fan guest, Rory-Jo Daniels. And we will see you guys on next